Hello there, welcome back, and may I say, you're looking wonderful. Been a hot minute since the last video, and certainly since the last solo one, and this is a video that's been long overdue. Um, Network went bust earlier in the summer, and I've been threatening to do so long and thanks for all the fish ever since. But I just decided to do it off the cuff. Why not? Why not? So I've assembled some of my favourite network releases from across their reign as one of the most interesting boutique labels in the UK. Never with the budget or the prestige of certain others, but they release things that you would never see from the BFI, from Arrow, from Eureka. Um, just esoteric stuff, bizarre 70s sitcoms that people that were in them don't even remember. So we're just going to have a look at some of my favourite releases from Network and a few recommendations. These are still out there. Grab them before they're gone. We'll start with one of my great heroes, Mr. Nigel Neil. They released some wonderful stuff for Nigel Neil. Beasts, his 1977, 76, late 70s anthology show, which has some of the scariest, most bleak shorts that you will see, and look, a very, very young Pauline Quirk there. It also has Martin Shaw having ghost sex with a dolphin. There's no real way to follow up that sentence. Yeah, Judge John Deed. I'll judge you. You did the deed. I saw it. Baby is a wonderful story. Buddy Boy's the dolphin one, but there's some amazing stuff on here. During Barty's party is a couple and just the noise of rats. That's all it is, and it is intense and scary and full of Nigel Neelism. And then you get Moraine as a special feature, which wasn't part of this series. It was the year before, but it's very much tonally a part of it, and it's very much a modern day witchcraft, angry villagers taking out, a fear of the unknown, a little bit folk horror. Brilliant stuff. Lots of great network stuff is DVD only. Don't let that put you off. Just buy it. Just get it. It's not going to look too much better on Blu-ray, and you won't get a Blu-ray anyway. Speaking of which, The Crunch and Other Stories, this kind of mops up some one-offs that Nigel Neil did in the 70s, like The Crunch with Harry Andrews. Ladies' Night, which is really chilling. It's a misogynistic tale. It's really cutting, really biting. And then Gentry has got Roger Daltrey in it, of all people. So you wouldn't really think of Nigel Neil and Roger Daltrey. So this isn't quite as essential, but it's Nigel Neil, so it's all essential. I mean, he even wrote an episode of Sharp, and that's essential because it's Sharp. But and then of course they did the last Quatermass series, the Quatermass, well, just Quatermass if you want to look at it that way, or the Quatermass conclusion, I guess, if you talk about the episodic version. This is Blu-ray, obviously, 5.1 audio on it, music only tracks. One of the heroes of Network is Andrew Pixley with his booklets. I mean, this is quite a short one by his standards. There's only 36 pages. Yeah, wonderful stuff. Quatermass. This is... if the first three Quatermass series were pretty dark, this is nihilistic. Nigel Neil had no time for humanity by this point. You can tell he was just done. And his next job was what? Halloween 3? Everybody's got to eat. And then, of course, they didn't just do genre stuff. Lots of comedy, as I mentioned, and lots of sitcoms. A lot that I'm not too into. Body humour of the 70s and things. Body with a B-E-W, not B-O-D. But one that they did release was Tony Hancock's The Rebel, his first feature film. This is phenomenal stuff, written by Simpson and Galton. Hancock's original writing team, the best writing team. This is fantastic. It comes with a script for the unmade Hancock film that they wrote. Well, I'm being texted as we speak. I'm so popular. Called The Day Off. So you get a complete little script. You might want to get the magnifying glass out for it, but it is there. And they also released The Punch and Judy Man, his other feature from the period with Sylvia Sims. Not as good as The Punch and Judy, as The Rebel, sorry. But wonderful stuff. And again, nobody's putting out Tony Hancock nowadays, so a sad loss. Let's go back to see, people still texting me, I'm so popular. Let's go back to some horror. Bela Lugosi. So it wasn't just British stuff. We've got Bela Lugosi in The Dark Eyes of London. So wonderful horror. And this is like peak Bela Lugosi as well. This isn't like 1953, just before Ed Wood found him. This is 1939. And it's very much a London set film, very much set the banks of the Thames, murders and whatnot. So Bela Lugosi almost coming to our style of filmmaking. Wonderful stuff. Nobody else has released this on Blu-ray worldwide, so get it. If you like Bela Lugosi, if you like classic era, Silver Age horror, Dark Eyes of London, it's 10 out of 10. And if horror ain't your thing and you prefer sci-fi, then get Things to Come. One of the greats of the period. I mean, Ralph Richardson when he was but a bairn. Raymond Massey when he was, well, he was never young really, was he? Margaretta Scott. I mean, it's H.G. Wells adaptations when H.G. Wells was still alive. 2-disc set, all sorts of extras on it. With Nick Cooper, I think, does the commentary. Yep, he's the Things to Come expert. I don't know how one becomes an expert specifically on Things to Come, rather than just H.G. Wells in general. Oh no, I'm not interested in any other H.G. Wells, just Things to Come. But since it's such a wonderful, prescient story, and this is such an ahead of its time film, it's worth it anyway. This is one of these films that you'll watch and go, were they making this kind of film in Britain this early? Yes, they were. It wasn't just Quatermass on. But Network also released other things that weren't remotely genre. So This Sporting Life, one of the great kitchen sink dramas. Richard Harris, his kind of breakout performance. William Hartnell's here, the first Doctor. A very sympathetic performance for a man known mostly as drill sergeants at the time, and then of course Doctor Who. But this is a stunning film. I mean, if you haven't seen some of I mean, it's of course directed by Lindsay Anderson, who would go on to F and whatnot. But if you haven't seen this, you really need to, along with Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, a lot of these early kitchen sink stuff, what Alan Bates was doing, what Richard Burton was doing, you know, the Windfall kind of stuff, because it's just phenomenal. Let's do some silence. They also did these two sets, which were releases of 80s documentaries. Unknown Chaplin features outtakes of a lot of Chaplin films, and it's wonderful stuff. These are both made by Kevin Brownlow, the greatest of all kind of producers of documentaries about silent cinema. Great archivist before it became a real thing. The Keaton one's a bit more problematic because there's footage in it or not in it that should be, but it's still great to have what is there. The Chaplin one's the treasure though. This is not on any of the Chaplin Blu-rays, even the Criterions, so please grab. If you love Chaplin, you need to have this. I mean, it's literally the peak era Chaplin. It's not as if we're just talking outtakes from Women in Paris. No. King of New York even. Or what's the one with Marlon Brando and Sophia Loren? The one they're on the cruise ship. No, this goes back to like Gold Rush and City Lights for outtakes. Films of that age, outtakes. It's brilliant stuff. So highly recommended. And then a filmmaker who they released quite a few things by, who has had his filmography done over and over and over, but some of these have only been done by network. Alfred Hitchcock. So we start with The Lodger, which has been done by Criterion, isn't it? The Man Who Knew Too Much with Peter Lorre. I think that's been done by Kino. But have these been out? Sabotage. Did I pick up Young and Innocent, or did I leave that next door? Young and Innocent's there as well. Lady Vanishes. These are essential. 1930s Alfred Hitchcock, literally just before he makes the jump to Hollywood. So essential stuff to see. Absolute essential for any film fan. Speaking of essential, the Allied film, Dennis Price's Victim, starring Dirk Bogarde, one of the most ahead of its time LGBT representations in cinema. And if you know anything about Dirk Bogarde, very fitting. A film that, yeah, it still hits hard. I don't want to really spoil what it's about, but blackmail and deceit and revenge, all about sexuality. And we're talking 1961. So these kind of things weren't being discussed, even in a dramatic setting. And here you have, Basil Dearden producing, I think, who was one of the great producers of the era and directors. Where should we go next? All things inevitably on this channel lead back to Hammer, and they have done a lot of great stuff with the Hammer catalogue as well. And some of these have had releases subsequently, but network were the first. Countess Dracula, wonderful film, with Ingrid Pitts and Peter Jeffrey, Morris Denham, Leslie Ann Down, genre faves up and down. Twins of Evil, one of the Karnstein movies with Peter Cushing, Dennis Price again, David Warbeck's in it, Isabel Black, stunning stuff. Devil Ship Pirates with Chris Lee, great. I mean, that complements the Indicator set perfectly, the Adventure Indicator set. One of my favourite Hammers, Eric Porter's brilliant in this, Hands of the Ripper. If you think you've seen all the good Ripper movies and you haven't seen Hands of the Ripper, then just do so. It's a stunning film. His performance is just electrifying in 1971. I mean, this one has an audio commentary with Kim Newman and Stephen Jones, for example, just to give an illustration of why you want to pick these things up. But then they also did Hammers that weren't horror. So they were releasing The House Across the Lake, which is a Hammer noir. It's not a great one, but it's a noir. They did a few of the TV adaptation into films from the 70s, which they're not very good, but regardless, for a Hammer collector, they're, they are what they are. Man About the House, Love Thy Neighbour. But they also filled in the gaps of Hammer alumni. Peter Cushing, for example, was in The Man Who Never Died, along with Stanley Baker. They did Hell Drivers as well, never pulled Hell Drivers out. Maze Etterling, Eric Portman. It's a wonderful film, really tense. It's not horror, but it's... And Peter Cushing's in Suspect as well, with Ian Bannon. A real cool espionage type affair. Highly recommended. It's not worth breaking the bank over, but these are the kind of things that Network were offering for £7 on a sale. Sometimes £5 on a sale if they've been hanging about for a while. Not just Hammer alumni. Amicus. They even released the non-Hammer horror Amicus of A Touch of Love with Sandy Dennis from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And a very young Ian McKellen, before he started talking like Ian McKellen. And this is an abortion drama from 1967. It's really ahead of the curve. Yeah, okay, Alfie had already done that, but Alfie was very much a cheeky chappy film. This goes way into it. way into the weeds. Morris Denham's in here as well, along with Eleanor Braun, John Standing. Network were great if you were one of the people like I am who are obsessed with character actors. You want to see all these faces that you know from Doctor Who's and Hammers and Tales of the Unexpected and blah, 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 blah. Let's see where to next. Yeah, it seems as good a place as any. Their release of The Women in Black is definitive. Nobody else is going to release it anyway. The only thing I have a problem with, this slipcover is tighter than a duck's arse. If you get this on and off once a year, be thankful that it's not split, because it comes with like a program and a blah blah blah. This is essential. If you only know the Daniel Radcliffe film, which is okay, the Hammer revival film, this is the TV version from 1989. But believe me, it's not just it's just a TV chiller. No, this is in the spirit of the M.R. James adaptations, and you get two presentations of it. You get the film version, omnibus if you like, and then you get the one with the advert breaks, as though you're watching it live on television. And what's cool about that is there's an infamous scare in this. It's not a jump scare film, it's a chiller, but there's one scare in it that is a legit scare, and it cuts straight to advert straight after it, and they preserve that here, and it is the most necessary advert break I think British television has ever seen, because boy, you need to calm down after that scare. All preserved, all here. So yeah, watch that version if you do pick this up. This is wonderful. This is one of my favourite Blu-rays in general. Documentaries galore. Commentary, if I remember right, has Andy Nyman, Mark Gatiss, and Kim Newman. So yeah, no-brainer. A couple of TV shows that they did from the 70s. The Professionals, all 4 volumes are worth, but I didn't pull out all of them. Rather redundant. Every series gets a book that size. Every single one. Right? Every single one. Written by Andrew Pixley. If you see The Professionals on ITV2, it looks pretty bad. This looks like a film that was shot last Thursday. No, it looks better than that because it's not digital. It's brilliant. Yeah, if you don't like Martin Shaw not having sex with the dolphin, it's not for you. But you do get the wonderful Lewis Collins, who, as we know, was very nearly cast as James Bond. And, of course, Gordon Jackson, Cowley himself. These are The Professionals. And speaking of Gordon Jackson, it was indeed Network who released one of the great television shows of all time, Upstairs, Downstairs, which was Downton Abbey, but good, with just a plethora of wonderful character actors, not least of whom, where is she? Jean Marsh, the wonderful Jean Marsh from Willow and Doctor Who and early Twilight Zone, Return to Oz, but once you see her as Rose in Upstairs Downstairs, you'll never go back. Simon Williams, so this is very much Upstairs Downstairs. It's the lives of the haves and the have-nots. It's just a wonderfully written, wonderfully acted portrait of British society at the turn of the 19th into the 20th century. They also did wonderful stuff, and I could have pulled out any number of releases from this catalogue, but with Jerry Anderson, I pulled out Space 1999 because I've got the nice limited edition slipcover ones. In fact, Space 1999 season 1, season 2 is pretty crap, but wonderful stuff. What they did with the Anderson catalogue was just unreal. Full collaborations with Jerry and his people, and then once Jerry passed, with Jamie, and just everything on the back there is extras. That is all extras. Network would often release a complete series, so they would compile this in a complete series, but they would make a lot of these extras exclusive. So it was always worthwhile picking up the individual releases as well. Uh, let's see. And then I guess we'll round off with, let's see, another sci-fi, Star Cops from 1987, I want to say. It doesn't say, I'm going to go with 87. Yes, it does, 87. Fucking yes. Fucking yes. I win. From the arse end of the sci-fi period for the BBC, when the BBC were afraid of sci-fi and embarrassed by it, trying to cancel Doctor Who every 10 minutes, well, Star Cops snuck in under the radar just before, and we managed to get not many episodes, but a wonderful adult sci-fi show, which has been resurrected by Big Finish on audio with the original cast. Highly recommend it. And then let's do 2 box sets to round things off. The complete Monty Python's Flying Circus Norwegian Blu-ray edition. I won't pull everything out here because it's a very fragile set, as everybody who got crushed ones, not me, can attest. Yeah, badly designed. If you tip it one way or the other, it will collapse. It's not, it will collapse. The weight of the books, the Andrew Pixley books, just makes the dividers just. So it's like Mr. Andrews in Titanic. You know, the ship can't sink. She's made of iron, sir. She can, and she will. It's an inevitability. Still a bit of lights in that film. She's made of iron, sir. Yeah, now this is just the definitive look at Monty Python's Flying Circus. And when you open this up, it all falls out, and it's wonderful stuff. But most importantly, it's wonderful quality for a show that was shot, some of it on film, but a lot on video. And it's been restored to a point where you think, wow, how could I ever have thought the DVDs were acceptable once you see them in-house restoration from Network, something they didn't do very often, but did here wonderfully. They had the assistance of the remaining Pythons to do it. The dead Pythons didn't collaborate on it at all because they were, dead at the time. So Graham Chapman had nothing to do with making this box. I've left myself a little bit space deficient here. Yeah, not bad. Okay, no, I'm not going to trust that. Set. Good boy. And then last but not least, the definitive home video release of The Prisoner. Gosh, you saw some people when this was announced saying, don't even know what that is. Why is it not called The Prisoner? Well, in the show, everything looks like this, because the idea is everything in the village just looks like this. So it'll say village beans, village map, village umbrella, and it has this exact same design. So when they did the box set, they did exactly that. So when you open it up, everything is the village this, the village that. The village books, which has got, again, a massive big hardback Andrew Pixley book. The show itself is under Village Films. The Prisoner looks amazing on Blu-ray, just stunning. Just Patrick McGowan looks as if he's walking up Byers Road out there with those drunks. Only it's Port Merion, so it's probably a little bit happier looking. Village Recordings, which is the full soundtrack. So not just the actual score, which is wonderful, with the Ron Grainer theme and whatnot, but the library music, the stock music, and everything's included on here. It's definitive as heck. All sorts of documentaries. The definitive home video release of, I think, one of the greatest television shows of all time, and I don't think that's a very controversial opinion. And then they also released some of my other favourites, like Sapphire and Steel with David McCallum and Joanna Lumley. Just non-stop. So, yeah, I'm not going to chance that. So, by gum, there's just so much network stuff that is still available, should you have the ways, means, and inclination to go out and buy it. And I cannot tell you enough how much is out there that you really need to be on. Get on it like a bonnet. Buy it. Don't miss out. I fucked that one up. So it's sad. It's fucking sad. There's no two ways about it to lose a great company like Network. No one's releasing half of this stuff ever again. Ever again. And no streaming network is going to think there's much need for fucking things to come. It's not going to bring new subscribers to Disney Plus. Apple aren't going to be fighting to get Unknown Chaplain or The Rebel on there anytime soon. So while it's still available, grab it, and don't let go. Beat people up and steal their copies. Steal money. If you don't want to steal the actual thing, steal money from people. Buy it on Amazon or whatever. CEX, HM, you know the places. Anyway, so this has just been a very ad hoc, as you can tell, look at some of my favourite network releases from over the last 20 odd years. I'm gutted. They are extinct. They've gone the way of the dodo. They are an ex-company. They are a boutique no more. But I suppose I should just be more grateful that they happened in the first place. And that I had exposure to so much stuff that I otherwise wouldn't have. I mean, not even some of this kind of big tier stuff like Upstairs, Downstairs. They even released the spin-off, Thomas and Sarah, with Pauline Collins and John Alderton. Just the most minute details, you know, stuff that you'd think, that's never going to turn a profit. It didn't matter to network, they'd release it if it was interesting. I wonder why they went out of business. They released a 100 disc Crossroads box set, which, for those not in the UK, was a soap opera, a very cheap soap opera in the 1960s and 70s. A 100 disc box set just before they went under. And they've left a lot of stuff in limbo now. We don't know what's going to happen to all this stuff. And they also had a stake in Hammer, actual Hammer. So we don't know what's going to happen there. Hopefully it won't tie up any potential releases from Hammer to come in the next few years. It's about time we start to see Hammer starting to come out in 4K, for example. We've had Amicus start to trickle out with the Doctor Who films. So, you know, it's about time we started to see some 4K action from Hammer, but if things were in limbo because of this, that would be a shame. But just moreover, just sometimes it would be the random things. A random John Mills movie that just seemed interesting. Or a James Mason flick that was on sale that you just took a chance on, just so you can watch some James Mason. Just wonderful stuff, and I'll miss them terribly. And long may they be remembered, because they served, absolutely they served. It never felt like a business, it felt like fellow fans of archival television and film who loved the British film industry and who genuinely wanted to share these obscurities and the classics, you know. So for every obscurity there would be a Python, there would be a Prisoner. Just nobody else is going to touch these little obscure ones. Of course there's going to be companies who'll release the Pythons again. Of course somebody will be onto the Prisoner. Of course somebody will take a punt on a Bela Lugosi film, or Hitchcock, but who's going to release Beasts again? Maybe the BFI. BFI are my, you know, help me Obi-Wan BFI. You're my only hope. Anyway, even by my standards, this has been an incoherent ramble. So, I'll cut it short there. I'll try not to leave it so long till the next one. In fact, I'll come back this week with a couple of wee album reviews to do. A little bit of... Until then, though, be safe, you be you, and if I don't see you through the week, I'll see you through the window. Till then. Or, to quote the prisoner, be seeing you.